I know everybody wants to get through this. So I'll call the meeting to order at 4:30. Betty Jo, thank you for taking minutes. Really appreciate it. And Rick, you're recording this session.
Yes.
So we're operating under State Executive Order 2020-07 and 2020-18, which suspends the in-person requirements of the Open Meetings Act. And we are following along with their directive. I'd like a motion on approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And then we'll have to do a roll call vote. So Samantha?
Yes.
Sophia?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Amy? Yes. Okay. Moving on, Rick has sent us the minutes for our last meeting, which also was remotely by Zoom. And does anybody have any comments on the agenda? On the minutes, I'm sorry. Thinking and talking at the same time. Not good. Okay, could I have a motion on the minutes, Sam?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you,
I
Greg.
second.
Roll call, Samantha,
Yes.
Sophia,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Amy, yes. And once again, Betty Jo, thank you. These are very nice, clear minutes. Thank you. Okay.
You are very welcome.
The only thing I had under old business, I believe we're deferring discussion of the capital needs and space plan till later. Greg was talking about the landscaping follow-up from last meeting, so we're looking at a 9/15 date for that to get them back to work on it.
That's what I recall. Greg remembers mid-September. I remember saying exactly the 15th, but I could be wrong. But mid-September is what they're shooting for.
But you guys are going to communicate and make sure that happens, right? Because I know we don't have a huge window.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Public Works because they're in charge of Christy Foltz, and then I'll talk with Rick. I mean, we'll stay on top of it to make sure what we planned actually happens.
Yeah, good. Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other items of old business? Okay, then we'll go to new business, which is the check. First thing is the check register. And it looks like everything was routine. I had a couple of questions, Rick. Could you just give us some background on the two big, looks like software things, the Bronix Technologies and Bridgeall Libraries?
Phoronix is our public computer management system. So it's how patrons log in, how we control the amount of time spent on the public computers and the like. It also, we have some filters that we use, and that is an annual cost, I believe, that's on there. And the Bridgeall is through Baker & Taylor, who is our largest book vendor. And that's the tool that's our selection tool that we use. So we've got a tool called Collection HQ. That's our deselection tool, that it helps us weed the collection more efficiently and we hope more scientifically. This is the newest piece of that. It's called ESP, and it's our selection tool. So it helps us select material. It helps the selectors select materials based on interest in our own library and interest in similar libraries around the region. So they use it's big data, and it's, the whole idea is for us to avoid what's called dead on arrival books. So, and every library has their share, and we had we had something like 14%. So that means a book that gets purchased and never checked out.
Ooh.
So we're just kind of getting our feet wet. I think we've got almost every staff member, except for maybe one or two now, that use it, and they all are pretty fond of it. Selection is a very, very, very time consuming process. I was the selector on a much, much tinier budget than these guys have, and I spent, roughly 20 hours a month on it, and that's just a fraction of the budget they have. So this helps us do it more efficiently, and again, we hope more scientifically.
And so when will we, and we can measure the effect by comparing it to the 14% dead on arrival before we
Right.
started using it. So what do you think, like a year's worth of
You
experience?
know what? I need to look at the data now, because I think we've done it a year now. So this is year 2, I believe.
Okay.
And so that is a point that I need to follow up on, because actually this says year 3. I thought it was year 2. But anyway, I'll get those numbers and see where we are now.
Okay, great. And then my other question was Jones and Thomas. I know we've had various discussions, and you've not been super happy with some of their services. So I see there are
Well,
2 payments now.
the service is fine. It was it was a slow project. It didn't get done in a timely fashion. I don't have any quarrel with the service, but that's our monthly fee for. A portion of that is for hosting it. They host our website, and a portion of that is for editing. The editing that we can't do. We can do most of it now, but that gets us so many hours of editing. We may cancel that portion of it because our guys have gotten pretty fast
good.
out with it. So we may cancel that portion of it. I was thinking about that today. The other thing, just throwing out here, we thought our website was too expensive at $18,000. You get a chance, look at the public library in Springfield is called the Lincoln Library, which isn't confusing at all. But they just rolled out a new website. Now they spent $30,000 on it, but boy, is it good. I mean, it is good. And their website was terrible. It was embarrassingly bad, but it is really good now. So you get a chance to take a look at that. And and just think, okay, that's nearly twice what we spent. Is it twice as good? It might be more than twice as good. As we go forward, maybe it's something we consider down the road, but they didn't go local. They went with a company known nationally for library websites, specifically library websites. Whereas we went local for a company that does it, websites, period. But this company knows libraries and what library needs are. But boy, it is slick and it's simple. Very simple.
Well,
I just put it on my browser so I remember to look at it later, and it looks good on first pop-up. I'm not really looking at it. I just wanted to pop it up because I'll forget to look at it later.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, especially with COVID, our website is so important.
right.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers, and you'll get them next week. The website hits and unique visits are way, way up. So.
I mean, it's good for what, I mean, at least for what I need it for. I like the form submitting, like that you can just submit a form and it goes to wherever it needs to go versus sending an email. I think that's really handy. So there are features of it I like, but I mean, could it be better? Probably,
Yeah, it's much better than what we have. It's much better than what we had. It really is. People tend to stay a while longer, visit a few more pages. Is that because they, can't find what they're looking for? Or is it because it's so attractive? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, think of all that we've learned about, navigating the virtual world, it's a continuous process, and that, it's, you have to, you can't stand still, right? You got to keep.
Yeah. So anyway, just something to look at, because I thought it was, of all the like Central Illinois libraries, I thought that they just did a bang up job on that website. Really, really nice.
Maybe what we need to do is have like a thing out to the board where you do like a hide and seek kind of thing, but not really hide and seek, and compare like their website and our website and see how easy it is, with like apples to apples type of thing. And maybe if we all did that, like just a short list of like 5 things that we had to try and find. And like the board meeting next time, that might be an interesting way to make the board more understanding of what we want out of our website.
That's a great idea.
I think it is a great idea, because there are some things that I find are hard to find. I mean, and I'm a library student. So.
We just make it a random list that everybody's looking for the same exact thing, then it can make it, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
I think it might just be an interesting exercise for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
There's a to-do for you.
I could, I mean, let's be honest here. I could make us win. If I wanted to put a lot of work into it, I could game that, but
We don't want you to do that.
in either direction. So it shouldn't come from us. So, but it's the simplest way to do it. So I'll try to come up with something in the next week or so.
I mean, I do like the searching for items, way better, 1,000% better.
Yeah.
I don't know if it could be better because I have no other experience.
Almost all of it's better, and we're just about to roll out that federated search, man, and that's going to be very cool. If they haven't already done it, no, we haven't yet. So we're just about to roll out the federated search that will search across every platform that we have. So it's got some bugs that we're still trying to iron out, but man, it's cool.
Cool. That's all the questions I had on the checks. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about?
No.
I just wanted you guys to know what I keep looking down at. He's a grouch.
Super cute though.
Yes.
I had some questions on something else, but not on the check registry.
Okay. So then could I have a motion to recommend to the board approval of the check register?
I make a motion to approve it.
Okay. And Greg, are you seconding?
Second, I second.
Thank you. Samantha,
Yes.
Sophia,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Amy, yes. Great, thank you. Okay, now we'll go on to looking at the August results. And I believe there was another property tax installment since we met last time, Rick.
That's correct.
And it looks like payroll continues to run behind where we are for the year, which is great. We're a little behind on materials.
Is that, or do you think we're going to hit that? Usually we don't, right, Rick?
Last year, I think we actually went a little bit over. I'm hoping, and I'll give my, spend all that money speech any day now, and push them to go a little further. I think there are a couple of big ticket items still to come. So electronic resources, so that'll help get us there, because electronic resources are in this line also.
So now, a few of the things that I noticed on there was our telephone was high. Why is that?
That is because we bought a lot of hotspots to circulate. A lot of Wi-Fi hotspots. And since it is through a phone, that's essentially a phone cost. It's through Verizon, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
then we
that
had-
was unbudgeted.
And then the
So
COVID
Rick, was that a one-time expense, or is that like an ongoing, telephone expense ongoing in the future is going to be higher than it has been each month because you did more hotspots?
Yeah, it's an ongoing expense, but it's also an expense that is going to, here's the thing. We don't pay for the equipment. We just pay for the service. They send us the equipment for free. A lot of times the equipment doesn't come back, so we cancel it. So it's going to go up and it's going to go down. So if somebody doesn't bring it back, we just shut it off and they've got a piece of plastic that does them no good.
Okay.
It'll go up and it'll go down because every month we're going to cancel a handful of them, if not, several handful.
And how long are people allowed to take it out for?
Don't quote me on this, but I believe it's 30 days. I believe it's a 30-day checkout.
So, but if that's how you're going to school, I mean,
Yeah.
that's, 30 days is
No,
not.
I think it's fine. I just was curious as to how long people
Right, and
were
we're gonna-
allowed to have it for.
And I think we're going to bring to the board, probably not next week, but maybe next month, a proposal to, either lengthen that period or to add some more renewals to it. Simply because of the increased demand.
Mm. And is there anything else we can do? I mean, can we, put Wi-Fi to the parking lot so that if people are desperate, they can,
But here's the thing. There are free Wi-Fi hotspots all over town
okay.
that Xfinity, Comcast has done. So they've got, I was at a restaurant the other day and I was like, see if they've got Wi-Fi. They didn't, but there was one that said, Comcast Wi-Fi, a hotspot Wi-Fi, and I clicked on it and it said, this is a temporary free hotspot courtesy of Comcast. There's a map out there. They're all over.
Okay,
So-
but you can't go to school at a restaurant.
Well, yeah, but they're not. I happen to be at a restaurant. They've got several of them all over town. You can't go to school in the parking lot either. You can try, but it's not very conducive. The hotspots is the best way, in my opinion, for us to mitigate that problem. And the other thing that we've got to consider is, to me, the answer to this is clear, but it's not to everybody, and maybe I'm wrong, but we get a lot of families coming in and asking to stay at the library and have their kids go to school at the library. And to me, it's like, well, what's the point of having the school closed if all the kids are sitting here together? I still don't want people camping out here and not social distancing. It's just I think the parking lot would be better than that, frankly.
So Rick, to that point, if a citizen comes in and that request that, they're keeping their children home from school because of COVID, but find the library more conducive for the education, so they're bringing the kids at 9 o'clock in the morning and picking them up at 3 in the afternoon. Are you buying that, or how do you know that it's happening or not happening?
Well, we've had parents ask us, and we're not running anybody out, but we're still not putting any seating in. So we don't have any seating at all in the children's department. I think that, but to me, it would be undermining what the school is trying to achieve, by keeping people home. But I do want to have, the last time somebody wanted to do that, because he said his internet went down. So I got him a hotspot and check out, so that if we've got those to send folks home with, it's hard enough. I've got a 16-year-old junior who's a good student, and it's hard for her, to sit there and focus all morning. And they're only going half days. So that's, and getting a ton of homework. So that's good,
But you have access. So we know that there are people in the Decatur schools for who internet access is obviously a huge issue. Based
Absolutely.
on the demand that you've seen for the hotspots, how much are we serving the demand, or if we had more hotspots, there'd be more demand?
I think we check out as many as we bought.
Well, you know, loath as I am to spend money, as you all know, but I think that this is, you know, this gets to the core of our mission.
It's a local CARES Act refundable cost up until December 31st. I'm pretty sure that's a grand slam or a slam dunk. I mean, I think it falls under the local CARES Act perfectly. We're doing it. We're doing it.
Then why don't you go? Then why don't you go buy?
We are.
More
We are.
just to have a stockpile.
Yeah, we are. We're in the process of. I mean, we are negotiating it though, because we found that if you don't read the fine print, so I told you sometimes we have to cancel. So we were getting charged $200 to cancel. You know, so
Why don't you sit down with them and say, you know, this is central to our mission. We want to work with you. You're going to get the brownie points. You know,
it's all in progress. I mean, we should have, you know, I okayed, I think it was 30 or 40 more. I mean, you know, we've got to be able to pay for it. You know, we believe that we'll get reimbursed for it. We've got to be able to pay for it up front. But I just think it's a very serious need, and you know, we'll keep doing it. And we'll.
Rick, is it a monthly cost, or is it just the line? Sorry.
I have to pull it out, but I think it is monthly. So,
That's what I was thinking.
But we're not. Go ahead.
Because even if we get reimbursed until December, it's still an ongoing cost. So like if it's per month, then we just need to take that into account. Because I'm all for that. I'm all for buying however many we need. So
right, but
yeah, you're right. Like
what I'm trying to say is we're negotiating where we can cancel it without charge. So that if January 1 comes, kids are back to school, we can cancel them. You know, or as many as we want without paying $200 per unit.
Okay, I understand that point, Rick. That's great. That's super. I'm glad you're negotiating it. But, you know, just as we're talking about this, you know, I would, if you came back and said, we've met with the Decatur Public Schools and we think this is the unmet need, and we're going to take some of our materials expenses for things that are going to remain in the library, and we're going to convert it to Wi-Fi hotspots, because Wi-Fi hotspots is how we can get information to more people, then I would be 100% in favor of that, because we know it's a huge problem.
Yep, in progress. I mean, I okayed, you know, however many it was. It was, 30 or 40, I want to say. So we should have them pretty soon. I mean, I talked to Robert's on vacation, but last I talked to him, it was a done deal. We got them we got ones that we can cancel without penalty. We've actually got some other grant monies that they would love to be spent on that. So we're going to get as many as we can possibly swing.
And I would also encourage you to, you know, meet with the school and get kind of the big picture of what they think the needs are. Because I know that, you know, they're struggling to serve their students. So, okay.
Hey, Rick, kind of a maybe naive question, but two questions. One, how much does each hotspot cost? And second, I'm assuming that it's a little device that connects to the internet, and
yeah, it's about that big.
Little box.
Yeah, it's about that big, a little piece of plastic, and they give us the equipment for nothing.
Yeah,
there's no charge for it. It's the monthly cost, and Greg, I'd have to go double check. It depends on where we get it from. I like from TechSoup, it's one cost. If we get it through Verizon, it's another cost. But
okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
I can get that to you. That's a good question.
No, okay, no, not necessary.
So here's one more question that I have is that when all of this stuff went down in the spring, Mount Zion called all the parents on their like phone tree thing and said, if you don't have internet, please contact us. We will get you internet. So what is the public school doing for getting internet too? And the thing is that I think that we need to do this hotspot thing for multiple reasons, not just for school kids, but is the school involved as well?
Yeah, not directly, and the question could be fairly asked, what responsibility do they hold in that also? Look, as an administrator, as a citizen, I go, absolutely, let's go ahead and do it. As an administrator, I say, why does my organization have to bear the
Foot the
brunt of
bill.
cost? Exactly. So,
Okay,
yeah.
but let's get past that and let's take a systems approach to this and make contact with the school and find out what the story is. Ask them why they're not doing what Mount Zion's doing. I can sort of imagine why, but let's see if we can find some kind of a system solution to this that will make a big difference. I mean, we want the library to be crucial to the community. This is an opportunity.
I 100% agree, but I also think the schools need to take responsibility for learning as well. And I think that we can be helpful in doing that with them, but we shouldn't be spending all of our money on it. But I am totally for getting more hotspots because I think there are multiple reasons why people could need a hotspot. Like people could be going to Richland, and Richland is not going to provide money for that. They could be having a job that's requiring them to do stuff from home and they can't afford internet. So there's lots of reasons why it's not just school, and school is another reason as well. But I do also believe that the schools have to do some of it.
And you're absolutely right. And keep in mind, we were doing this before COVID. We were slowly adding more and more before COVID. It's just that COVID really brought out the need big time, so.
Well, and this is an opportunity for continuous improvement. We're building on what we've already done. We're learning new things. We're, addressing a major issue. And I agree, Sophia, that there are lots of reasons to do it. Let's look at the big picture here.
So I have one more question. I have a few questions on this. What is the COVID expenses? Is that the stuff that you moved into, because we're hopefully getting reimbursed for it?
Correct. Yeah, anything that we bought directly as a result of the pandemic, especially things to support work from home and distance learning. Is that, Greg, is that pretty much your understanding of the umbrella?
Yes.
And PPE.
Oh God, you scared me.
And then I have another. So what's the temp agency?
Oh yeah, that was a good
So
question.
that's Joanne retired after 44 years, and Robert and I are still working on exactly what we want the new person to be. We've had a variety of unfilled administrative positions. Okay, so what skill set exactly are we looking for? I've got some salary ranges from HR Source on all of our job descriptions. And then we're also considering maybe we create a brand new job description by taking bits and pieces of some of those things. So until we get somebody in that position permanently, we have a temp in the afternoons. Betty Jo handles the mornings and into the early afternoons, and then our temp comes in around lunchtime and works the afternoon. Yeah, I budgeted for 6 weeks. May take a little bit longer.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's fine. People need jobs too, so. And it's nice not to necessarily commit before you know what you want.
Well, yeah, and she may have a line on a job that the temp has been serving, doing a very, very good job. She may have a line on a job, and I told her, go ahead and take it. I can't guarantee you anything, but I would look at our job listings and encourage you to apply once we decide which direction we want to go. I think that I think we'd want to talk to more than one person. She's doing a fine job, but and would be interested in the job permanently. But I think that we want to talk to more than one person.
Well, and I certainly applaud your continuing, as I know you've done in several of your recent people leaving, of taking the opportunity to look at realigning the jobs and making them more flexible and more consistent with exactly what you're what you need to be doing. So
Yeah,
that,
people would ask me, how are you going to replace Joanne? And I said, I'm not going to try. I'm going to, just not going to try.
okay, well, then I guess the next thing to look at is is this page, which I'm not even sure what it's called, but that's where you're projecting the full year for the current year. And I'll start with the first line or the second line. You're projecting that we're actually going to do better on state replacement tax than the budget based on,
Just based on, you know, a better than expected month in August. And I'm just projecting it based on the pattern in the past.
okay,
That's all. I mean, we get it 8 months a year and it's lumpy, and I'm just, but there is a, you know, there is a pattern as to which months are, you know, are the bigger months and which months are the smaller months. So that's what it's based on.
okay. Then we come down to salaries. You're projecting the year end is going to be actually slightly higher than budget. Why is that?
Well, we did some hiring, and but there's also a bit a payout for when Joanne retired. So, and that I hadn't accounted for last
I got, yeah, that I got it. So that would also be why your IMRF, so the actual staffing, so that payout is definitely changes the numbers. So the fact that the benefits look like they're less than budget is because
Yes.
there are actually fewer people.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and those each one of those, it depends on, you know, we hear a lot about this under COVID, but it depends on how I model it. So I modeled it 3 different ways, and I took the worst numbers from each of those models. There's three ways to, I thought of 3 ways to project this out, and that's the worst case scenario.
Okay. And then coming down to operating expenses, you know, you're still showing, as we've discussed many times, the software is going to be higher than
Yes.
budget.
Yeah.
And is
That was
that,
on my list of questions. I just said software. We always talk about it.
you want any new information, Rick?
No, it's just there was a lot of stuff that that's unbudgeted for. I think you'll see it's probably a little better than my recent projections because I moved some of that software, some of those software costs to the COVID line.
No.
Because, like for instance, the curbside service software, okay, we wouldn't have gotten that without COVID. Whether that flies or not, whether the state, you know, reimburses us for it or not is another story. But I took it off the software line. There might be 1 or 2 other instances of that, but you know, it leads us to something that we'll get into maybe a little bit when we talk about the 2021 budget. I want to look at some new budget lines because we've got some lack of clarity in some places. You know, to say office supplies can be confusing sometimes, and we need like technology hardware also line. We don't have that, and there are a few other lines we're going to be looking at, talking to the city about adding and getting us a little more granularity in the budgeting process.
Well, kind of from a management perspective, it would be interesting on the technology side, for instance, to differentiate between the public-facing technology and the technology to run the organization. Those are kind of two different things. Or that the office supplies that are really marketing materials, so that's different.
Sure, and I kind of see that a little bit as more internal, but you know, because then we look at departmental budgets, but yeah, I mean, for instance, as we're going through new processes, you know, because you know, the person who's been handling this for 44 years is gone, you know, we look at some things like, okay, I've never really looked at this super hard before, but I think that I wouldn't do it this way. And we're going to be changing up, we're going to be switching up a few things.
Sure.
And so, and part of that is going to be looking at the budget lines. to me, at its very least, it makes no sense to have a computer software line, but not a computer hardware line. And things like cabling and connectors and such like that, okay, I don't consider those those aren't supplies. You don't run out of them. But then again, it's hard to call them capital items too. So if
But
we had,
if you don't have the cord, you can't use it.
I get it, you know, but I think a technology hardware line might be a little more descriptive and might tell us a little more.
Okay, so on the medical expenses, on the COVID expenses, you feel like you've made you've spent what you need to spend?
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
All
No,
right.
there'll be quite a bit more. We're going to load up on PPE
Okay.
and supplies like hand sanitizer because this CARES grant is until December 31st. So,
Right.
you know, I'm going to order what I feel like we need for the next several months.
Sure.
So that will get into some money. We're also looking.
Well, Rick, on that, you know, and the city's doing the same thing. That, you know, this CARES grant went out to 50 states in the country.
Right.
Okay, 50 states in the country are going to be buying gloves and buying masks and buying hand sanitizer. So it's better to get in line first.
Yep.
In front of the line. So order the stuff
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and you know what what I was told was that the name brand hand sanitizer was back, but it seems to already be gone. So we were looking for it. So we're going to get the stuff that's stinky that nobody wants to use again, probably. But we've got to get it.
There was some brewery that I heard about around here that's making hand sanitizer now.
Yeah, we bought our last batch from a distillery in Peoria.
Yeah. There's quite a few, like even the big brewers too.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else on this?
Well, so it looks like, Rick, the bottom line is we're going to do slightly better. Everything, pluses and minuses, looks like we're going to do slightly better than the budget.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then let's look at your very first draft of the budget for next year, which is this. It says library operating expense at the top, and it goes across, and it has.
All I could think is our property taxes are going up.
It's not my decision. I'm throwing it
I
out.
know.
This is a, and I don't think it would necessarily. Here's the thing, and Greg can speak to this better than I can. Given the fact that this city has acquired a lot more properties.
Oh, yeah.
We don't levy for a percentage, we levy for a number. So this number will be shared by a lot more people, a lot more property owners than it has been in the past. And there's a possibility that wouldn't even equal an increase on most tax bills. But I can't speak to that.
But it also depends on what happens to total EAV.
Absolutely, yes.
So, I know that the sales market is hot and properties are selling faster than usual, but
what does that mean for EAV? I have no idea. That's my question.
Well, there's a time lag, but EAV is supposed to be, with a time lag, a valuation of the market, of the assessed value of all of the properties. So if the market's trending up, EAV is going to trend up at some, it's going to have a different slope maybe than the sales data, but it's going to trend up. EAV is going down. If the market's going down, the EAV is going to go down.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen right away. But
my neighbor works at a title office, one of the title offices there in town. He says he can't remember a time this busy.
So, I think thank you for putting your assumptions in here. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If we don't, I've got to cut some lines. And some of my things are, well, keep in mind, I've still got some drilling down to do on some of the numbers. Okay. And then there are the assumptions and the allocations from the city that, that we'll get, and Greg can speak to that. So this is a very early draft.
Yep.
I mean, here's the thing.
Yep.
I gave something like this to the second month on the job. I gave something like this to the board, only it didn't have, I kept this line flat and showed a negative number down here. And you know what happened? I had an editorial about me in the paper 2 days later. And it's not even a proposal. It's a, let's start the conversation here. That's all it is.
Well, you might use the very helpful watermark function to put draft on it.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
And you also might date this as the date that you prepare it, because I'm assuming, when I did budgets, there were 15 versions, and having a date would help us keep track of them. Okay, PBR, that you got some information from the city and the state.
I got this from, so I went to Department of Revenue, and they have published a projection.
Okay, so it's from the Department of Revenue. That's the answer to the question.
Well, no, it's a partial answer to the question. So they have published a projection for each recipient of PPRT and what they're going to get in the coming fiscal year. And so what I did was I took that number for City of Decatur, and then I looked at historically what portion of that Decatur Public Library has received in the past.
Okay.
So that's the second part.
Okay, thank you. Your notes probably based on this year, which is probably anomalous, which I agree with the concept, but I don't understand how the numbers work. So you're saying that fines are going to go, give us the short answer on this.
Yeah, so some of those numbers are way down, but that's based on a projection from this year's performance, and this year's performance is probably not indicative of next year's. Now, those aren't significant numbers.
No, they're not. But I'm just curious because we have a no fine policy, so.
Yeah, well, let me, this is one that, I have to revisit every few months because it is hard to wrap your head around. We still collect fines. We collect fines. We are fine free for people who hold a Decatur Public Library card, period. Not for other library card holders. And we get people from Forsyth, we get people from Mount Zion, we get people, they still have to pay fines. Our agreement is that we do not mail a 30-cent fine to another library. We keep the fines that are paid. Now, if we get a $50 fine, it's a courtesy, we send it on, but we do collect fines from other library card holders.
Okay, not a big point, minor point. Okay, the very important staff line, your note says that you're based on staffing for the full year. Are you aware of any potential planned retirements or whatever that might give opportunities to consolidate again?
Yeah, it's possible. There are a couple people that are near the top of their pay grades that it's possible to probable. I've had one in particular tell me that a couple months ago that they won't be here this time next year. So there will be a dividend there, financial dividend at least.
Okay, so that's something to keep an eye on. On the benefit side, has the city gotten the number from IMRF for the rate?
I haven't received it yet.
Greg, has the city gotten a number?
Yes.
Okay, so you could share that with Rick. The rate.
I mean, offhand, I don't know what it is, but
no, but I mean,
got it back in April. But in here, that'll be used in here.
Okay.
Yeah, typically we get once, and tell me if I'm wrong, Greg, but typically we get set everything at once. So we get all the allocations and all the assumptions in a package. Every department gets them and we get them. So.
Yeah. So the one thing, Rick, the one thing we're going to do is, haven't finalized it yet, but we have, we will likely when we do the budget, what we're going to charge you employees who take healthcare insurance from the city, we're going to charge each department, and including the library, a lower rate in 2021 than we are in 2020.
Oh, great.
And the reason we're doing that is not that health any better. It's just that we've got, I've determined we've got some level of excess cash reserve in the employee benefit fund that because we're gonna have negative COVID revenue impact next year. It's a choice. The choice is to, and the city council has to make this determination. The choice is to, if they want to have a balanced budget and revenues are down, that means programs, services, people will have to be cut. Or we can solve some of that by harvesting some cash reserves from other places in the city to offset, any revenue shortfall. And right now we're thinking that we're going to do that from the employee benefit fund. Haven't determined what the amount of money is, but I've given Donna, she probably gave to you, an assumption that we're going to use for budget purposes of what we're going to charge you on a per person basis for healthcare. Okay. And it's going to be lower than what we're charging this year.
Great. Well, and this year's coming in under what I expected. So,
well, the under could be because it doesn't have anything to do with claim expense. What it has to do with if you plan to have 30 people taking healthcare, 25 do, you're going to be charged less because you have less people, enrolled in healthcare. So it's more volume related as opposed to anything else. If you're short this year.
But the decision to use those reserves set aside for future claims is a policy decision, and that's the city council's responsibility to make that determination.
Yeah, what we decide for the city will apply to the library simply because it's the same healthcare plan.
Right.
So.
And Greg, so when can Rick expect, when kind of that number coming, do you think?
Donna's got something now that she can share with him on a per person basis. But we're not going to finalize the budget till October or November. So, so there's a lot of time to deal with it, but Donna could share, Rick, with you what the assumption that you should use for healthcare expense for next year.
great.
Super, thanks. Advertising or I presume this includes promotion, public outreach.
Advertising is just literal taking out an ad in the paper because if we're promoting an event in the paper, we don't pay for that. This is if we have to advertise for a clerk or something.
Okay, all right. I don't think I had any other questions. Obviously, it's in process. You guys, Samantha, Sophia, got questions on this?
I was looking it over this morning and I didn't really have a lot of questions about it. I more had questions on the August budget, but.
And there's still plenty of work to do on it. There's still some things I need to drill down on, and I had some key people on vacation that I needed to consult with on those things. And then we had a surprise visit today from Governor Pritzker, and so my last
day and a half.
yeah, a day and a half have been spent on preparing for that. And, you know, I'm typically working on this right up to the last minute, and that means right up to the point I put it in front of you guys for final approval. So,
Like my only thing which I talked to you about today was, you know, like I think we've pretty much gotten all of the big projects that we were talking about out of the way that would actually come out of the budget. So, you know, this year, so it'll just be kind of maintenance next year, and then the like anything building related would just come out of the capital fund. So that's
and the foundation, one hopes.
right. Yeah, the foundation. So that was my only question. And then you answered everything
So
else.
would we put any surplus over to the, our capital fund at?
So, any surplus from this year?
Yeah,
Well, we can. Well, I mean, you know, once we hit December, we can decide what to do with that.
we did that last year, right?
Yeah, we put some of it in, and some of it rolled into the operating cash fund, if I recall.
I mean, I guess the problem is that so far life has become super unpredictable, and this just the last 6 months have been crazy. So it's always better to have a little cushion, I think, at this point.
Yeah, and we've done, you know, that's something we've done really well on. I mean, I think more than anybody, Greg can speak to, you know, how bad our operating cash was, say 7 years ago, 8 years ago, because the city was, you know, giving us bridge loans for months to, you know, we wouldn't have been able to meet payroll. And, you know, we'd run out of money every March, and we'd be broke until June. So we've never dipped into I don't think, into a negative cash position in the last 2 years.
It just,
Yeah, don't think so.
everything goes smoother for sure. So Rick, I'd just like to ask you in terms of process, because I know you're gonna have a new version of this tomorrow and a new version of this on Monday and a new version of this on Tuesday. It would be nice if you'd think about not presenting the draft budget to the board this month, because it's a draft,
That's fine.
and that you just plan to, you know, on the day of our October meeting, that we're going to look at the most recent version of the budget and then and get that ready to go to the board.
I think that's what we did last year. Yeah, it makes sense.
I think we did that last year too.
Okay, good. Well,
I don't think we showed the board until November,
That might be right.
Yeah.
if I remember.
okay, well, great. Is there any other, I don't have anything else. Is there any other new business anybody'd like to talk about?
No, but I will talk to you after.
Okay,
Don't mind sticking around for a minute.
sure. That's, you know, I love Zoom.
I have trouble figuring out where to look.
I know, because I'm over here, and for some reason I always just look at myself. I don't know.
Well, I try not to look at myself because I don't like the way I look on Zoom. I'm sure in person I look way better, at least in my mind, because I don't look at myself, but I'm like, where do I look? And then I've got cat problems. I don't know.
My dog was like scratching at the door, and then she wasn't there, so I don't know. So do you need a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I will make it.
I will second.
And Samantha,
Yes.
Sophia,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Amy, yes. Thank you all. Thanks very, very much. Thank you, Rick.